You may not need these teams right now, right away, but my guess is that you'll need them in some capacity by the end of the year. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Zareth Prevails. Today, let's talk about the top teams that you may need this coming year. Obviously, it's not going to be a definitive list because who knows what madness CG is concocting. However, it is probably worth taking a look at these teams and enter them into your planning and just kind of reviewing what does this team actually do for me. Some of them are tremendously useful in ways that are kind of unexpected, and so let's talk about it. First, let's say thanks to my patrons. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for all of your support, guys. I couldn't do what I do without you. I really couldn't. Thank you so much, guys. I truly do appreciate every single one of you. And guys, if you want to support this channel for free, all you gotta do is hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, comment, mount the algorithm, guys. It's fun. Come hang out with me on Twitch as well. There's a link in the video description, and I go live 3 times a week, folks. If you didn't realize it, there's a link. It's free to come watch on Twitch. It's a fun time. Just hang out, chill with us, try to solve the GAC madness that I face day to day. It's a lot of fun. So that being said, let's get to the... Whoa, we're in the game. This is an unexpected delight. Wow, madness. Thank you for allowing me to be in the game. Now, this list is not going to be definitive, right? I mean, we just don't know. I think I said that before, but we don't know what CG is going to concoct. But to the best of my knowledge, these are all teams that are going to pass the age test pretty well. They have already done really well, and I think they're going to be good. The other thing I should point out, we're not talking about Galactic Legends. Galactic Legends are kind of like the agents are in the Matrix. Like at some point, you're going to need to face them. You're going to need to get them. They're the gatekeepers. They're holding all the locks. They're guarding all the keys. The locks and the doors and the keys, and you can listen to Morpheus talking about them at some point in that movie, but that's what Galactic Legends are in this game. They're the agents. You need them. You're gonna need them at some point, so go get those. If you're going to get other teams, though, because we all do need other teams, here are the teams that I would suggest you would kind of want to use. Now, the first one is Iden Verso, and this doesn't have to be the exact team that you use. Iden is great on a lot of different levels. They keep requiring her for things like Conquest, and she's great in Conquest because she goes first. She starts with a 100% turn meter, which trumps the 700 speed BS that some of those guys in Sector 5 have, right? So that's wonderful, and coupled with the data discs and stuff that you can get, it's pretty awesome. She's also useful in GAC, and even in Territory Wars, she helps you counter a lot of things that you would otherwise find surprising to be able to counter, like troopers can kill Lord Vader pretty well if you have Iden done the right way. So, the Iden team, pretty good. It's going to be a tricky thing, folks, to incorporate. People keep asking me, what's the best split? How do I make the 3 best trooper teams? Because now we have Imperial Remnant, we have the Veers squad, and we have Iden, and we don't get 3, I'm sorry to say. And the older trooper team, I mean, it's still got legs, it still does some cool stuff. I honestly think that Iden is going to end up being the more important of the 2, even though I probably prefer the Veers team. I think the Iden team is probably the future, and right now, Iden is so good in the raid. I know that's only going to be half the year, but I mean, I think this team is going to continue to have legs. It doesn't have to be this exact composition, but I do think you want Iden in some capacity. Now, another team that you should be working on if you haven't already, and this is something that you should be looking into if you haven't been, is trying to get your full Inquisition squad. I realize that it is a massive pain in the butt. You have to gear up so many characters. There's 7 characters that you need at Relic 5 or higher in order to reach your full capacity, and then you don't even use a couple of them. Well, you kind of do. You still use Nightsisters to be a tank sometimes, rarely. You also sometimes, I mean way more commonly, use Second Sister as a pilot for one of the most important ships in the game. But then the Inquisition, they're about as close to a Galactic Legends squad as you can get, folks. They're still probably one of the top, if not the very top squad in every single other game mode. If you can use them in a lot of different capacity, I mean, you just they have really important tags too. I mean, so they're likely to have some kind of datacron that helps them. I mean, obviously Dark Side is the more broad one, but then, I mean, Inquisition, that's way more specific. Empire, though, very broad, and you see that being used all over the place. And then, as unaligned force users are probably the most important thing in the game right now. CG loves them. They think they're really neat. And honestly, we should be paying attention to things like that. Unaligned force users, maybe that was just last year. Maybe they're not a big deal this year. But right now, if you can find a guild that will take you in, that's Reva ready, that's you're going to be able to farm Reva, I would recommend it. That's one of the earlier farms that I think, I hate recommending it, because until you get Reva, the squad isn't great. But, like Grand Inquisitor lead, he does okay. He does fine-ish. He just, Reva makes it so much better. And if you can't get Reva somehow, I don't know. I guess maybe don't get the team, but it's important, guys. And Imperials lately have been very important, which is why I will say the the Imperial Remnant team is, I mean, right now, obviously, there's a datacron out there that makes them so bonkers, so ridiculous, and also a lot of them are used to very good effect in the raid. Those are great reasons to have those teams just on their own. Probably going to have a lot of teams in the Rise of the Empire stuff. I would not be surprised, folks, if this team was pretty much required for whatever madness they get into. Like, at some point, they keep hinting that we're going to have more Rise of the Empire teams or nodes that we're going to unlock, and honestly, they can't unlock. I think that there's like 7 or 8 nodes. I'm sure people will correct me in the comments, but there's a bunch of nodes that we can open, and I think that we're going to open one pretty soon. Another one. I know that right now we have that Zepho one that we can only unlock with Jedi Cal, and that's like somewhat recent, but I think that CG is going to keep pushing it, frankly, and I think this is one of the teams that's going to be relevant there. Whether or not they get like a combat mission node or a special node or something, I think it's going to be good. Not to mention, folks, I think the future as well. So this game has revolved for so long around turn meter gains, and we are seeing the slow, steady shift away from turn meter gain teams into teams that penalize you from gaining a bunch of turn meter, or at least incremental turn meter. And you guys won't really even notice it. I didn't notice it. Someone had actually pointed at me. But look at this. So if you look at this, moving from 7 to 8, if you upgrade it, let's see, whenever an enemy gains bonus turn meter or bonus turn, they lose 10% defense, offense, and they also lose 10% turn meter, which is crazy, because then it doesn't actually say anything about that in the actual leadership. You guys can look. It doesn't actually say the 10% turn meter thing, but it penalizes so many teams, folks, and it's not something that I don't think that they can actually resist it. And so teams like Commander Luke Skywalker are heavily penalized by this because they have such incremental but insidious turn meter gains that it's just going to, it does just ruin them. Teams like Tusken Raiders, Tuskens aren't the team of the future right now, at least, but at least they penalize squads that gain incremental turn meter, and this is one of them. This is a really strong squad, and I think it's going to be really strong in the future. It's also going to be very good in territory wars. So lots of good stuff, lots of places that it could be relevant if you let it be. Now we have Adrad. So you guys remember how all of these Imperial teams are important, right? Adrad is just so contrived that Adrad's next on that list, because Adrad neatly counters most Empire teams. Now, it only counters Empire teams if they can be hurt by exposed damage. So teams like the Emperor Palpatine Mara Jade Starkiller squad, that you can do some damage, Empire. And I guess I should also say expose damage and or daze. Daze is really important. You can't daze the Starkiller team. So this squad, probably you don't take down Starkiller with it, most likely. You can kill a lot of other teams, though, including Inquisition, honestly, if your Adrad team is modded, right, if you know what you're doing. You also take down this Moff Gideon team if the Datacrons actually let you. Right now, in 3s, it's a little bit rough, but... Iden teams, it destroys Iden because every time they gain bonus turn meter, they get dazed. And then their whole thing is based off of trying to gain a bunch of turn meter. And they can't, so they just kind of sit there and they're like, hey, what are we supposed to do? I don't know. I haven't gained turn meter in about 7 days. And then they realize they're in Elysium, and they're already dead. I hope I didn't totally misquote that. That's, it's an important quote, in fact. But anyways, the Adrad team continues to be relevant, folks. Obviously, it's going to be a strong team because you need profundity anyways. You're going to need Relic 9 on Adrad. And then, I mean, I think the biggest piece of advice I would say, like, getting Jin a couple extra Relic levels so she does extra damage. Trying to get K2SO farmed up for 5s because he is really strong in 5s, even if he's less strong in 3s. Baze is so hotly contested off by so many different teams. You want him on the Saw team. You want him on the Princess Leia, or the Leia Galactic Legend team. But you also want him on the Radis team. He turns so many teams from zero to hero. Honestly, trying to kill Inquisition, for instance, without Baze, it doesn't happen that often. With Baze, it happens more often than not. And so those are kind of just the extra characters that you could have for Adrad. You guys can watch my Adrad Faction Essentials video. It's just a little bit back. You can search for it. It's fun. It's fine. We're all having fun there. It kills Empire guys, and as long as Empire teams that can be affected by daze and expose continue to be a thing, and teams that rely on revive. Remember, Inquisition don't revive, but Moff Gideon and Iden Verso rely on revives, and Adrad denies Empire specifically revives. So, as long as those teams are continue to be put out by CG, which I don't see why they wouldn't. Empire is incredibly important in this game. Adrad's going to be very important and very relevant. So, go do it, guys. Go forth and gear your fish team. Now, we have an Ufu team, which is also important. And honestly, Malicos is so good in GAC. He's a lot of fun. He's throwing rocks at people. He's swearing at people, probably. We can't hear it, but actually I haven't turned the sound on in the game for like years, so who knows? Maybe he actually does it. Maybe the game had to have its rating increased because of all the Tourette's nonsense that he's spewing. But one way or another, the fact is, guys, Ufus are more and more in demand. We needed them for the Starkiller team first. We need them for this Seer team. This here team, or is it this Seer team? No one knows. But we're going to keep needing them, folks. Ufus are the new hotness. CG really loves them. We need them for the Inquisition squad. There's all kinds of teams that rely on Ufus, and that it's kind of just a space that CG kind of wants to inhabit right now. So, and they can stash a bunch of fun characters that we normally just wouldn't use. You can just stash them, on this squad. Like Lord Vader really loves to hang out with them. He's like, you guys are pretty neat. I'm going to give you speed up. And they're like, why? Why would you like us? He's like, I'm scripted on this. I have no idea. They didn't tell me why. That's just what's happening. So, one way or another, Seer with Cal, so good. Cal makes this whole team so good. Malicos in GAC is really strong. He does okay in like territory wars, or not territory, but he probably does okay there as well. They all have their uses, but like I don't use them in Conquest. You can use them in like Rise of the Empire teams, I guess, to do so, to just hit auto. It's a fine team. I just think it's one of the teams of the future, folks. CG's been pushing unaligned Force users for a while, and this is kind of the pinnacle. So, working on some combination of this team, pretty important. Okay, so, next up, we have Starkiller, which is another Ufu team. I think the one thing that I've been telling you guys, and I don't regret telling you guys to gear Plo Koon, because he is so good with the current Marauder fleet, and who knows what the next fleet's going to be. You know, there could be another really strong Galactic Republic fleet. The next awesome fleet might be the Endurance. I don't really know. Right now, though, Plo Koon going with the Marauder counters a lot of the current meta fleets, and that's really strong. So Relic 8 is wonderful. The one thing that I've pointed out in at least one other video that I want to make sure you guys understand is, once I looked at the Starkiller, this is results in GAC specifically, once I looked at the results with Starkiller on which which Jedi tank was the best, what I realized was Juhani and Plo Koon are actually very, very similar. And if Juhani wants to go, if you want to gear up Juhani and get her ready for territory wars, there's not a huge amount of drop-off between Juhani's output and Plo Koon. Like, there's basically, sometimes Plo Koon is a few percentage points higher, sometimes Juhani honestly is, and it kind of rankles me, because I'm like, man, he's good in GAC as well, and he's better than Juhani. Like, I've told people that, and in my mind, I can't see how Juhani would be better. Honestly, I've never seen her do the cool stuff that Plo Koon does, but obviously the results don't lie, the numbers aren't lying, and Juhani is about comparable. The thing that you have to remember is Juhani isn't a pilot, and Plo Koon has been good on a lot of different teams for a long time. He's very worthwhile to gear up, even if it's just as a pilot. So just something to keep in mind. But the Starkiller team is going to continue to be relevant. And as they add more Sith, as they add more Jedi and Ufus, he's going to continue to refresh and re-strengthen his use cases. Now, the Jedi team, this is kind of a cop-out in some ways. I just threw a bunch of strong Jedi here. Probably throw Mace Windu on here as well. Lots of different things. Here's the thing, Jedi are central to Star Wars, right? You can't get much more central than Jedi. And I think that CG would be crazy. What if this year they didn't? What if I told you this year, guys, I'm sorry, I could see the future, and CG's not releasing a single Jedi at all this entire year? Your response would probably be something like, well, you're kind of dumb and I'm going to stop listening to you. And I would advise you to do that. In fact, if I said something crazy like that, maybe it's going to happen, but most likely they're going to release at least one Jedi team. And the thing about Jedi is they all work so beautifully together. They really do kind of just form this really nice symbiosis. And as they continue to release Jedi, that continues to be the case. I mean, Kelleran Beck, yeah, his use case is a little more narrow because he wants Galactic Republic Jedi, but he's still in that same club with, Qui-Gon and Anakin, what's his name? The guy who hits hard with the pokey head. All of those guys. The window guy who's just out the window. All the different people. Jedi are central to this game. And honestly, this is a team that CG is always like, hey, you need Jedi for this. And you would be doing yourself a favor to be working on them. My littlest account has a terrible squad of Jedi. They are just awful. I'm embarrassed at how bad they are. And as a result, I don't accomplish a whole lot sometimes with them. With people are like, dude, can't you just beat this man? I'm like, no, shut up, I can't do it. It's embarrassing. It's horrible. And you should work on your Jedi, folks. It's not a joke. Now, Nightsisters are kind of an odd choice just because they're relatively underpowered compared to a lot of these different teams. But what you have to realize is they solve so much. And in Conquest, They probably can solve about 3/4 of the map just on their own. Conquest is kind of their god mode. They are amazing. There's a few teams that it's like, no, don't take Nightsisters there, you idiot. But otherwise, Nightsisters do a lot of cool stuff. Here's the other piece of Nightsisters, though, folks. I don't know if you've seen the Ahsoka show yet or not, and I'm not going to give big spoilers, but Nightsisters are involved to the point where I will be shocked if we don't get another Nightsister update at some point kind of soon in the future. And right now they're so good. They're taking out unlikely things in GAC all the time, taking out Galactic Legends. They're kind of CG's most hated banned, honestly, the faction, just because they CG like can't predict the kind of madness that the ingenuity of the players can concoct with the Nightsisters. But Nightsisters is so relevant and so strong. Remember, I also have Dathomir on Rise of the Empire and can do that node really nicely as long as you use Daka lead. Remember, I think I'll put out a video on that this week, in fact, so stay tuned for that. There'll be infographic and everything. It'll be fun. Now, CG spent all last year trying to get all of our Mandalorian faction in line, and in fact, it seems like it's working, except... you know, the ISC and Gar Saxon, great. Maul, I guess he can split off from Lord Vader if he wants to now. On some levels, sometimes he can. Canderous can just go wherever Maul goes. Jango's kind of just stuck with the trench team, and we don't have the fourth dark side Mando. We also, I mean, we have enough light side Mandos, but like Sabine needs to go with her team, and you know, if Bando goes with his own, like this is the team, and it's fine. It's good enough. I think, folks, my theory, and I could be wrong, obviously, I think CG is going to release some kind of a node in Rise of the Empire, in the territory battle, where we go to Mandalore, and we need Bo-Katan for it. I think that's going to happen. And I think that there will be an unlock character there, and it'll be a dark side Mandalorian, and he'll hang out in Jango's current spot. Is what I think. Obviously, that's a lot of speculation, and probably some of it, maybe all of it, is wrong, but right now I'm starting to get vibes. The way they're releasing this Bo-Katan mission, like the unlock, this will be a third time in less than, like 2 months, whenever she was released, was the end of December. It'll be at the start of February that her third event will occur. It's starting to feel a little bit the way CG was sending us those messages, kind of like just a hidden message saying, hey guys, work on Inquisition. They're going to be important. They're going to be important. Inquisition going to be important. Hey guys, they're going to be important. And then we get to the point where we have to unlock Riva, and a lot of the people who were listening to that message were ready for it. Whether or not we were pissed at CG for handling those announcements poorly or not, we did catch the clues. And even though it looks different, on the surface at least, from that release, from the way they've been kind of telegraphing it, it seems like this is the beginning of that. Like, hey guys, maybe you want to start paying attention to the light side Mandalorians and try to get unlock Bo. Probably you want to start unlocking Bo pretty soon. She's going to be important. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but it seems like that initial stage of like, oh, shoot, we're probably going to need Mandalorians, and that seems like it fits the time frame really well. That would be a cool planet to go to, and we could unlock something awesome there. Or maybe something awful, but my guess is, especially because Bo-Katan was kind of released and people were like, well, she's okay. I mean, she's great right now with her datacron, but once the site goes away, who knows if she's going to be that great. She's going to be like Afra, like, oh yeah, you can use her a couple of places, that's fine. But my guess is she's not going to be the ending. Maybe she'll be the stopping point for light side. My guess is that dark side gets some kind of reinforcement, because Maul is still the lifter unit for dark side Mandalorians, and it just seems like they didn't split these two factions, this whole faction, into two groups just to steal a Galactic Legend, well, arguably one of the most important Galactic Legends, lifter unit. My guess is we get something for dark side, and we need light side Mandos to help us with that. That's my guess. Now, Saw team. This is a team that I think is going to be very relevant, folks. It's already pretty relevant. So first off, you can use this team to unlock, or to beat one of the Rise of the Empire special missions. You need Relic 7 Saw. Obviously, he's a luxury character that not everyone should be working on. You should work on him to unlock Jedi Cal for sure, if you can. He's amazing, but otherwise, Gear 12 for Saw for a while is fine. The thing about Saw right now is I think this is a faction that might be built a little bit this year. First off, we got a lot of different Rebel fighters this last year anyways, in the form of Captain Drogon, Captain Rex, and we also saw the resurgence of Baze and Chirrut, which they've been kind of in the background for a while now. They're suddenly more relevant, they're needed everywhere, they're really strong. Mon Mothma is taking a step back as the lead, and we can just see Saw all over the place, being used for all kinds of different things. To be honest, Kyle Katarn is like, yeah, I don't like Mothma anymore. I'm gonna go hang with my boy Saw, and this team. We also just had a really awesome season of Andor. Tons of people loved that show, even if they hate all the other Star Wars shows out there. Loved Andor, and I wouldn't be surprised if we got more stuff from this squad. It's also, Saw is much stronger than people kind of give him credit for. He's been on a lot of really strong teams lately, and in GAC, I don't know if he's going to be good in Territory Wars, guys. I don't know if he'll be good in Conquest or whatever, but I don't think we've seen the end of Saw Gerrera. I think he's going to be good. At some point, maybe we'll get Edrio 2 Tubes as another addition to the squad, but you don't have to add Drogon to the squad or Rex. They'll make the team better, though. And Saw himself, he's just pretty good. I think if we don't get Andor content, which maybe we won't, but I would love it. I think it would be a very popular set, and if we do get Andor content, Saw would be a very natural place to add a lot of those teams or characters to. Now, Trench is another one that I would say, I know that he's kind of an unpopular character. A lot of people are like, man, he's one of the characters you can ignore. I don't think you should ignore him, guys, because we're going to need another capital ship. I don't think CG cares that their last capital ship release was a dark side one. I could very well be wrong. I think the next capital ship could very well be Admiral Trench's capital ship, whatever it's called, the Spider-Man 2, or some weird crap. That's probably not that, almost certainly. But I think this team is also, this team keeps being mentioned and used, and we're gonna get news soon about new separatists that are being released, almost certainly. That's what the unlock characters are in February, are B1 and B2. So my guess is that General Grievous gets reinforcements, frankly. That's probably the number one guess that I have. Or maybe like Aphra finally gets her tank, a dark side tank droid. That would be great. But one way or another, I think CG is ramping up for some kind of separatist generalized release, and Trench could be at the end of it with his ship or with something. If you are currently trying to farm him in Proving Grounds, go do that, guys. It's important to keep working on that. In general, folks, this is going to be a much more important team as things progress, and it is already a very important team in Territory Wars. If you put a Zeta or an Omicron on Trench, it does pretty good, and this team does pretty good. The other thing I want to point out, folks, is Trench he struggles when he doesn't have Watt. Watt is important. People are like, oh man, but I need Watt for Sith Eternal Emperor. But they just released Bane to go with Sith Eternal Emperor, potentially at least. Some people are saying he needs to go with Lord Vader. Who knows? I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But what I do know is that Trench with Watt is way stronger than Trench without Watt, and now suddenly we have a character that frees up Watt to actually go with Trench. Sure, Watt can go with other Galactic Legends, other teams, but I think that we're going to see a resurgence in that Trench team. Finally, the Phoenix team, I can't decide, folks. I can't decide if this team is just going to be a flash in the pan or not. It's already kind of struggly in 3v3. Captain Rex also wants to be on a Saw team. He wants to be on the Leia team. He could be with some clones, like with General Skywalker and the 501st. Lots of places Captain Rex could be. These guys were initially killing like Jabba teams, but that was only with a Datacron. I don't know if that's going to continue. I don't know if it's going to end up being really good. Phoenix are kind of a fan favorite. I feel like maybe their time is a little bit, like their prime is a little bit past, but one way or another, they are a fun team, and I think that they're going to be one of the best starting teams out there. The thing I should point out too, folks, is I talked about Nightsisters. Nightsisters don't have to have high gear. Nightsisters can punch up and beat all the conquest things with like gear 12 on everyone except for Daka, who probably wants a gear 5 or relic 5. The Phoenix team is also another really strong starting squad, and honestly, you're not going to go wrong with that. They're going to kill a lot of stuff, at least in 5v5 and GAC. They're going to do you well in like Rise of the Empire, depending on what you're facing. They're going to do you a lot of good. They're a really strong, good, foundational team. They're the kind of the team that I would advise most people to be working on as they start the game. Not to mention Captain Rex is an important part of a lot of different teams if he wants to be, and so you're not going to be hurting yourself too bad if at some point you just have to cut him loose and these other guys are like, well, you guys are pilots, you relic, good to go, and have Rex go and hang out with the cool kids. I don't know what's going to happen exactly, but what I do know is that the video is now over, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What teams do you think are going to be the most important in 2024. Would love to hear from you guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails.